Former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, who, by the way, is still legally Venezuela's president, was back in front of a federal judge today for the first time since his arraignment on charges of narco-terrorism and drug trafficking. But this time, asking the judge to toss out the indictment, arguing that the United States has violated his constitutional right to defend himself by blocking Venezuelan funds to pay his legal fees. Now, to be clear, prosecutors don't really have a problem with Maduro using his own money to pay for his legal defense, but they say that allowing him to access Venezuelan government funds goes against the sanctions that are currently in place. Now, no decision was made on whether the U.S. is illegally preventing the payment of Maduro's legal fees, but the judge refused to throw out the case, at least for today. Who knows in the future? Now, there are many questions here. If the former president says he doesn't have the money to defend himself and the Venezuelan government can't pay his legal fees, is the U.S. taxpayer going to be on the hook for a public defender? Should they be? Also, I got to ask about the main narco-terrorism charge, too. Doesn't have a great track record of success at trials. Now, the administration, by the way, is really riding on this prosecution. Is he going to be found guilty? And if he's acquitted, what happens next? For those answers, this is where I turn to criminal defense attorney Todd Spodek, who has defended clients against accusations of drug trafficking and narco-terrorism. He also famously defended convicted fake heiress Anna Delvey. Thank you so much for taking the time. This is an interesting argument that he's arguing his constitutional rights are being violated. Doesn't he have a right to attorney, not one that has to be paid by Venezuelan money?
Look, the Sixth Amendment guarantees him the right to counsel, and he gets to choose that counsel. The real issue is whether he has clear funds to pay for that counsel. And any money that he has is tainted by potential fraud. Any money that Venezuela has to fund those legal fees is also tainted by that fraud. And that's the crux of the issue. It's not whether he can choose his own counsel, it's whether he could afford his own counsel from funds that are clear of any sort of taint or any signs of ill-gotten gains.
What do you think the judge is ultimately going to do? I mean, do you think there's a scenario where the judge could say, you know what, such an unusual situation, government, if you're refusing to allow these funds to pay, I got no choice but to throw this indictment out? Is that a possibility?
Jesse, I don't think that's realistic. I think Judge Hellerstein would issue an order allowing for a release of funds that went right to the attorney for his defense. And they've done that before in the Southern District in high-profile narco-terrorism cases.
And otherwise, I mean, imagine, this is kind of crazy to think about, U.S. taxpayers paying for Maduro's legal fund, his legal team?
Yeah, I mean, that would be extraordinary. These cases are complex. The time commitment alone is tremendous. And there are real indigent people in New York who need public defenders to represent them. This is someone who, one way or the other, has the money and should certainly be able to pay for his own defense lawyers.
Let me tell you something. As an attorney, I have these allegations are true. And based on everything we reported about Maduro, there's no love lost. I don't feel quite that much sympathy. But, he is entitled to his rights, which does now bring me to whether or not he's guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I got to talk about this narco-terrorism charge. I was reading a little bit more about it. It's the main charge, narco-terrorism conspiracy, literally connecting drug trafficking to terrorism. So here it be the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia. They are a designated terror organization. But I understand that the prosecutors would have to prove that Maduro knew that the drugs facilitated terrorism. Doesn't have a great track record. Doesn't have a lot of convictions at trial. What do you think?
These are hard cases to prove because you really need people on the inside to work with the government to prove the case. And you have to have sources that are willing to come in a trial of this nature that's so public, that has so much media attached to it, and essentially cooperate against the former president. It is difficult. It is hard. The government's going to put everything they have to try to obtain a conviction here. This is certainly the administration's #1 priority, and they've made this a priority.
Yeah.
But I think it is going to be a difficult endeavor for the U.S. Attorney's Office, one way or the other.
There is reporting that generals are about to testify against him, which could be something. And he is also facing cocaine importation conspiracy charges and possession charges. I got a crazy question. In the event that he's ultimately acquitted or the charges are dropped, is there a world where he goes back to Venezuela and goes back into power? I know that's kind of a political question, too, but you tell me, unless they hit him with other charges somewhere.
I mean, first and foremost, he'd have to win fully at trial, right? Because this case is going to ultimately go to trial. So he'd have to get a full acquittal. the inner workings of the Venezuelan government and him somehow getting back there and getting back to power, I think that's a stretch, and I don't think it's realistic one way or the other. I think all signs point to the regime changing there, and in fact, the U.S. is warming up to the new political players there, and I think they're going to do everything in their power to keep that relationship going.
All I'll say is sometimes in the last few months, I know there's a lot of things I don't expect that ultimately happen, but it's a very interesting time, and we will see what happens with his case. But Todd Spodek, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Jesse, thanks for having me.
You got it.